We can use that one to
I'll
sign.
use that one to sign. Yeah, that's interesting. No, I've done with that. Okay, thank you. So we're live streaming. Okay, so welcome everybody to this meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Town Council. Please note that the recording device is sensitive and the recording cannot be edited, so do not say anything you do not want recorded. If necessary, I will direct all recording in the room to be stopped, but generally I want to avoid doing that, so we will normally record everything except any item taken in closed session. Members of the public may also make their own recordings, but must follow our rules for doing so, including stopping recording when requested. Whilst we do not accept anonymous speaking at the public forum, members of the public who wish to speak but do not want their name published must please indicate this before saying your piece. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the first item on the agenda. Apologies for absence, please.
We have apologies from Councillor Crooks, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Furman, Councillor Hanlon, Councillor Lucarini, Councillor Roach and Councillor Miller-Jones.
Thank you. So item 2 on the agenda, declaration of interest and request for dispensations for members to declare any interest they may have on items on the agenda and agree any dispensations to stay. Have we got any? No? Okay.
I suppose I am on the board of One Haverhill, but I don't know whether that's really needed.
Okay. Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the Town Council held Monday the 29th of November 2021 to confirm the minutes of the Council meeting as correct records. May I have a proposer for that? Councillor McManus and seconder Councillor Mason. Thank you. Sign these. Can I get a vote for that, please? Thank you. In favour? Yeah, thank you. Sign. Where am I signing? Let's see. I've been writing this all day as well. Okay. Thank you.
We're not doing that one as well, because it's resolution.
Okay. Is that it?
You can do it for this.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay, so next is to note any progress on actions arising from the minutes not covered by this agenda. Are there any? If we look at the pages, page 214, page 215, I can't see anything. Page 216, anybody? 217, so there's C21168.
Yes, Chair, I circulated the draft letters. Thank you to Councillor Burns for pointing out how Haverhill Family Practice isn't a member of the GP Federation, so we've added that letter in. If there's any comments before those letters are sent, or if they're happy for those letters to be sent.
Yep, okay, thank you. Okay, then item C21169, the lay-by Haverhill bypass. Is that
Yeah, that has been submitted, but it'll take 4 weeks before they respond as their service time.
right? Okay. And on page 218, we've got the Haverhill show.
Yeah, the thank you letter is. Well, I could have included that one as well, actually, but
Okay.
I have written that thank you letter, so that will go out as well.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, go to the next page, 219. Nothing down. 220, the appendix, 221, 222 and 223. No? Nothing to raise. Thank you. Okay then, so we're going now on to item 5, reports from the District County Councillors on the issues pertinent to Haverhill and the public forum. So 5A, the police. Have you got anyone to speak about the police? No. No? Okay. So next one, 5B, we go to County Councillors. Councillor Mason.
Yes, this month I'm just doing a verbal report. There wasn't really sufficient material for me to do a written one this month. I've not sat in a meeting, committee meeting with scrutiny or full council since the last meeting. A number of constituency issues regarding potholes, trying to get some patching done for Downs Crescent. Out of the locality budget. Anyone who's gone down Downs Crescent will understand what a shocking state it's in, and I'm exploring improvements of the surface in that particular area. Also exploring with the rugby club some funding possibilities to see if their plans for a fenced off area around their main pitch. They're suffering from dog walkers at the moment, which makes it very unpleasant, and possible use of some locality funding. But I've also invited the rugby club to do a presentation for the town council, because it would be very interesting to hear what they've been getting up to. But other than that, Chair, very little to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Burns?
Councillor, can I just ask you to chase up those white lines at the bottom of Primrose Hill?
Okay, we'll do.
Which I mentioned. So yeah, it's ridiculous parking there at the moment because there's none there. Thank you.
We'll do.
Okay, Councillor Fox?
You know that the doctor's surgery is supposed to be over the bus stop new. Would you chase it up if I send you all the details?
Please do. Yeah, but I'm not.
Because it was all paid for.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. So yeah, please do.
Yeah,
and I'll
okay.
have a look at that.
Okay, any other questions? No?
Sorry, Chair, is that Greenfields Way?
Yes. Do you know when it's going to start?
No, I just wanted for the minutes to know which bus stop you're talking about.
Yes, Greenfields Way.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay then, so we go to item 5C, which is the District Councillors. Councillor Marks?
Yeah, you probably, as you probably know, I'm on scrutiny on behalf of the District Council, and I scrutinise East of England, clinical commissioning in West Suffolk Hospital, and I'm also the chair of the Task and Finish Group for the new hospital build. And you're probably aware of the whistleblower report that's come out. So that, as you might imagine, is causing some disarray in the hospital, and it's a great shame really, because the hospital does an absolutely superb job. This event was 2 years ago, and most of the people who were involved in that have left. So I think it's really important that there's progress forward with that, rather than so that's at the moment. It's a 260-page report. It's worth reading. I think people should at least read the executive summary on that, so they know what's happened and have the facts of it, rather than perhaps what the press is choosing to put out. But I'm also very aware that the East of England Ambulance Service is on Route 4, which is the highest level of response, and it is struggling massively with staff leaving. So it's a big problem. I'm aware that Councillor Brown is concerned about the loss of the car here in Haverhill, and I have to say I agree with him. I just don't think they've got the staff to run it, frankly, at the moment. So it is a continuing problem, and I think the NHS is struggling across the board at the moment.
Where could we find that report that you were talking about?
It's actually on the West Suffolk Hospital's website, and it's called the Rapid Review, which wasn't actually very rapid because it took 2 years to come out. It's a very, very good executive summary, but that is 50 pages. But it's really worth reading because it will give you the bones of what happened. And as I say, most of the people have left. There's one who hasn't left yet, so, but most of them have already gone.
Okay.
We're implicit in that.
Okay, thank you for that information. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, that's it. A couple of things. Obviously, the ambulance thing. I did hear, as I said in my email the other week, that from a very good source that we potentially, well, from the source said that we are actually going to lose our rapid response vehicle, our tethered rapid response vehicle on January the 22nd. That provided us with 156 hours of tethered cover a week. Yeah, to lose that is going to be a huge hammer blow. I don't know if it's getting replaced by anything, but I think we urgently need. I don't know if did we write to the ambulance trust, or have we actually written to them, or shall we propose that now?
Following your email,
Yeah.
I chased James Norman and I forwarded him a copy of that,
Yeah.
so that and asked for comment.
Yeah.
And his response was, I've called the informatics team this morning, asked them for the data that we'd asked for earlier.
Yeah.
I've had also contact from the executive team and responded to those. I'll come back as soon as I can with the informatics.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we haven't had is an actual kind of response in terms of the actual substantive questions, just that he said he will respond to us but hasn't actually responded.
I've also alerted Sarah May White at West Suffolk Council. She's informed the Chief Executive Ian Gallen is going to also look into it as well. And I did write to the MP, Matthew Hancock. He unfortunately hasn't responded as of yet, but I did let him know the situation as well, because I think it could potentially be a very serious situation if we lose that RRV, and us as town council, district council, etc. need to do everything we can as councillors to try and retain or at least find out exactly what's happening. We haven't had a response yet. We may be getting some other type of cover, but I'm not hopeful about it. But it's something that we really need to be on top of. And the other thing is I was told that East Town Park, the Stour Brook, was polluted again last week. I've asked Damien Parker to look into it. I think it's the 5th time since I've been involved as a councillor in Haverhill since 2013 that brook has been heavily polluted. It isn't good enough. So we're going to look into that and find out exactly what's gone on and see what we can do to try and stop that as well. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Brown? No? Okay, thank you. Any other district councillors to speak? Okay. Councillor Barnes?
Only just to say, I did my usual report. I don't know if there's any questions on that at all. The police report was on there. They are going to, I don't know the details yet, but they will be starting the Freedom 12-week process in Haverhill at some point, which is to do with domestic abuse. They're also going to be starting something called, I think they're calling it ICNE, which is the other side of the equation is educating those who cause domestic abuse. And try and wean people off, whatever they, male or female for that matter. So hopefully that will be a good thing when it happens. I think they're going to start in March, I believe. So just a bit of news I heard today. So,
Thank you. Okay then, so if there's no more from any district councillors, we're going to item 5D, which is members of the public are able to make statements or questions at this time, but we haven't got any members of the public present today. Okay, so we're going to item 6, consultations. To note that West Suffolk has formally agreed a limited community governance review. Okay, did anyone want to say something like that? Did you want to say something?
I think it was just for noting.
Okay. Okay, so it's just to note for the record. Any questions around that? No? Councillor Smith?
So, So what can we do as a town council then? Obviously there's, this is to address some of the anomalies that were thrown up in the county division review. Is there any prospect of us sort of trying to claim, if you like, the area around the Haverhill retail park, or that strip of land up Haverhill Road, which is a little bit of a little ratting surrounded by Haverhill? I mean, it just seems daft that those are still outside of the town council jurisdiction, whereas we provide services for those, but we get no recompense.
Okay, Councillor Burns.
I actually asked that specific question of Ben Smith. Should shake your hand. No, apparently this is only a minor review to do with the wardens in the central. But what I did go back to him and said I was a bit disconcerting was apparently they're not going to do a review of like the research park and the bit up the V section, if you like, up at Little Ratting for another 10 to 15 years. And I said that's not really very acceptable, but you know.
It's a bit disappointing, isn't it? Because a bit of an anomaly. So, do you want me to get up for a minute?
So who's made that decision? Is it his decision to make, or can we ask for that included in the review?
Sorry, what was that?
I said, is it his decision to what gets reviewed, or can we ask for something? So obviously there's going to be a working party. So can we put suggestions to the working party?
Do you know
I
that
mean,
answer?
And my understanding is that this has been to West Suffolk Council, full council, and this was their decision, or it's a cabinet decision, one way or another. The decision has been taken by West Suffolk as to what the scope is. And to be fair, the officers have said from the word go that it would be a limited review and wouldn't open other things. If councillors wish us to make a kind of formal request to broaden it, but I think we just have to be prepared for the fact that we have been told from the word go what the purpose of this is.
Yeah. Any further questions on that? Or any suggestions? That's or not?
They're still looking for people to go on this review panel. I mean, I'm not signing up, I'm too busy, but you know, they are still looking for people to go on it. I think from the email that came out the other day, it looks like they're struggling for people. So, David, isn't it a good idea if you went on it? Perhaps you could push from there.
Councillor Hines, our representative, and I'm her substitute.
Oh, does that mean you can only have one?
He's politically balanced.
Oh, is it? Oh, they didn't say that in that.
Okay, Councillor Burns.
If there's any help, I can read out bits of the email I received from Ben Smith.
Yeah, if you want to do that, it's fine.
This is an interim view focused specifically on looking at parish warden arrangements due to the new Suffolk County Council boundaries. And I'm obviously praising in this. It's an opportunity to see if the parish ward boundaries could be made coterminous with district ward/county divisions. This may resolve your frustration with the current parish wards. And it says also there's an opportunity to look at other minor anomalies with community governance, and also one specific issue deferred by St Edmundsbury its review in 2016, which I must admit I don't remember that one. The draft terms of reference, which is now being done at council, also states the review will not consider issues which were included and resolved at the St Edmundsbury and Forest Heath reviews in 2016-17. Because full reviews should be carried out every 10 to 15 years. The Withersfield-Haverhill boundary was considered at review in 2016, which we know it was, and the decision was to leave the arrangements as is due to insufficient evidence to justify change. Well, actually, I went back and said that wasn't what we decided. It was actually basically the last item on the agenda, and all the other councillors there just couldn't be bothered to consider it because they wanted to go home, which I said at the time, and I put a formal message in at the time saying it was not acceptable. Every review should be considered like a planning application. In fact, it's the last one on the list. There's of course the option of petitioning for review on a specific issue such as this, and you can access the guidance online. But I think, you know, when we did that, I was on that review in 2016. Not once did it mention it would be another 10 to 15 years, or 20 years, in fact, in this case, before we would look at it again. They said, oh, well, you know, we can sort it out at another day. And I think that's one of the problems. You know, they seem to be changing the rules as we go along. I mean, we also asked specifically for a review of the boundary, of the county boundary we're talking about now, because of this anomaly, you know, this thing that we've got travel lodges in Essex and Kalina's not. And also, you know, but that hasn't been done by them either. They just seem to dismiss it. And since the merger of the two councils, this sort of thing is happening more and more. We find. So what we can do, I don't know. Those two anomalies there. There's also the bit of the going past Bradnams there, which we looked at previously, but the town council at the time said no, we don't want to take that one, or that fee. But now with Great Wheels in North West, it's just such an odd thing that a few houses in the midst of these big two estates are going to be a little ratty.
Yeah, it does seem really strange, doesn't it? I mean, is there something we can do as a council, like to write to them and ask them to consider it as a review? Part of review or petition. They talk about petitions. I don't know whether that's something we could.
What is a petition? Is it just a formal request?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a
No.
get the 1,000 signatures.
No. I'd argue it's a formal request. Is that something we can do as a council?
I can look into it and find out exactly if it is more than a letter.
Yeah.
I could imagine if it was actually a petition, if all the people in an area wanted to move, that would provide some strength. But if it's literally kind of like a petition to court,
I'll forward you that email, Colin.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Councillor Smith?
I think the inconclusive resolution to the last review would give us grounds, I think, to say that it wasn't dealt with correctly. So I think it's well worth pursuing.
Well,
okay, thank you.
Sorry, I remember, I think you were there, weren't you, Colin? Remember that meeting?
Yes, I was, yeah.
You know, and it was...
I'm not convinced it was particularly inconclusive. I think people were very clear they didn't want to entertain the proposals from Haverhill. So I think the easy thing to do is if we find out this petition thing, what we can do, and submit it. You know, if it's appropriate, and then you know the ball is back in their court.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean at the time, if people remember, the people who were then living on the Arboretum had only lived there for 5 minutes, said we're part of Withersfield. That's how we were sold these houses. And I said, no, you weren't sold that house, because I actually went and inquired, and I was told by Taylor Wimpey these were in Haverhill. But of course, the people of the village of Withersfield wanted to get rid of it. You know, unfortunately, you know, we know who won.
I thought they wanted to keep it because they've got the council tax.
No. They were paranoid. They were paranoid about the fact that if there was a new village hall, it would be built at the Arboretum, not in the Withersfield village. As an example.
Can I go to Councillor Brown, because he's been waiting a while.
Yes, on a related subject, I did mean to say this earlier, is that actually Withersfield are in the process of making a local plan.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe something that we need to keep an eye on, as obviously we're onto Haverhill. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fox, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought it was half and half for Withersfield. Half wanted it and half didn't.
Yeah, the half being the Arboretum and the other half being the village.
No, but when we looked at the plans, there was all the green dots was in the village as well. Because that's why half the parish council resigned.
That's right. The whole thing was a mess at the time.
Okay, well, we can see what we can do then with Colin finding out about this petition. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to item 7, the Mayor's report. So I did circulate it last night. Sorry, it was a bit late last night. I was doing my planning for my lesson observation. So it's quite busy. There wasn't much to report really. There's a lot happened in the last few weeks, and there have been a few cancellations. But obviously, the biggest thing for me was our own carol concert, which was well supported by some of the councillors. So that was lovely to see you there. So that's it really. There wasn't much more. There's not much lined up, so I haven't put any future dates out at all. Because there's a few sort of like save this date, but they're quite a way in advance. So there's not anything really lined up at the moment. I think everyone's going to try and see what's happening with COVID over Christmas. So, but anyway. Any questions about that anyway? Yeah, no? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to item 8, One Haverhill Partnership. Receive a report from the clerk on matters relating to One Haverhill Partnership. So 8A, board meeting held 9th of December. Okay, if you've got any...
Well, a number of members here were present at that meeting. Had a presentation from West Suffolk to do with the new hospital, which I thought was very interesting, and in particular a presentation from Helena Joplin, who was looking at a clinical perspective and was proposing that One Haverhill get involved with a more of a community-based look at healthcare than had previously been done. So I think we'll hear more about that in the new year in terms of who might get involved in the working party there. But there are a number of members present who might wish to comment.
Yeah, I mean, I was president, and it did seem they wanted to consult with us about the hub, as they call it. They refer to the moving hall hub as that, and that's why. And what we want to see in this hub. So I know that's what we've been asking for. So I got the feeling it was quite positive in that respect, and you know, getting us involved in that. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I remember in February 2019, we went up to Castle Manor and we sat around a long table and we were talking about collecting data, and we had the County Council there and Public Health England possibly talking about collecting the data. And of course COVID happened and messed it all up for that process. At the presentation there was a discussion about collecting data. I'm particularly concerned that the data that they're collecting it needs to be truly representative, and there is a danger that the data may only include that from West Suffolk and not from Addenbrooke's, which was a point that Councillor Burns raised, but also not collecting enough quantity of data from all the different patients' experiences and needs. And also, there seemed to be a slight emphasis on current needs. And the point was made about looking forward and making sure. I would like that to be stronger, a stronger emphasis placed upon forward-looking. I know there are cost implications, and you know, but whatever is developed not only needs to meet the needs of our residents today and tomorrow, but also in the years to come. And I'm just worried about the data set that may be collected, and that it may not be as representative as we would like. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so so B, 8B, to appoint a representative to the Heart of Haverhill bid working group. Councillor McManus has to take on this role. So, Councillor Marks.
I propose Councillor McManus.
You propose Councillor McManus. Have I got a second for that? Councillor Brown. All those in favour? You myself? Okay, thank you. Unanimous. Congratulations. Okay, so we now go to item 9, adoption of committee reports. So 9A is the, sorry, we did do it. See, I'm getting old. Okay, so 9, adoption of committee reports, planning working party.
It was circulated earlier.
That was circulated earlier, was it? Yeah. So to move the adoption of the minutes of the planning working party. Meetings and the recommendations contained therein held 7th of December. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Brown. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. 10, Arts Centre Management Report. Receive a report from Personnel Working Party on the immediate and proposals for the future management of the Arts Centre. So hopefully you've all had a copy of that. Do you want to speak about that?
I don't remember seeing that. Sorry, Liz. Was that
Arts
drop
Centre
down?
Management, it should be in the papers. Agenda item 10, Arts Centre Management.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So this is basically just to kind of confirm what is written in front of you. The Personnel Committee has been working on this. What we need to understand, of course, is that we've never employed a arts centre manager. The Arts and Leisure Manager simply became de facto Arts Centre Manager when the Town Council took on the role of looking after the Arts Centre. So there was no updated job description or anything like that, so we have had to start from scratch. Of course, I've talked to Nick himself, talked to Sarah and to Gary. I've had meetings with Lizzie Cocker and also Jane Knight, who some of you may know. So to get a kind of feed in from different directions on different models of management and the kind of recommendations, if you like. And they weren't necessarily aware that I was talking to other people, but it was interesting that there was a great deal of consistency in what they were saying. And that was basically to recruit somebody who would be the arts centre manager, would really have the role of the kind of delivering the cultural lead on arts for the Town Council, so that it would be an important post, but it would be also very clear management that everybody knew who was supposed to have done something, because it will be the Arts Centre manager who's supposed to make sure it gets done, and that saves us a situation where sometimes people think somebody else was going to do it, because at the moment there's a kind of a slightly flat bit at the top. For the time being, thanks to Nick for programming much of 2022 in the Arts Centre, we don't have to rush to get somebody in. Sarah and Gary have taken on responsibility for overseeing the operation of the Arts Centre. Sorry, the automatic lights keep clicking on and off. You probably need to think about an override switch. We won't be the only people using this, but it won't work. Is it a central front one? Okay.
Just, you only have to go up that far.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. So, as I was saying, so we've worked on the job description, person spec. That isn't finished yet, so personnel will have another look at that, and when they sign it off, councillors will be part of the recruitment panel because of the level of responsibility of that particular post. Great news is that Jane Knight has offered to support us in doing that, so you can sit in at the interviews as an observer and give her comments, and she's an extremely experienced person, which obviously gives us some comfort there. The thing that was interesting is when we were talking about the sort of right rates of pay, etc., is the advice from Suffolk County Council is that if anything, Haverhill's reputation in the arts world, locally, kind of regionally, is it puts on amazing stuff, but does it all by itself, and doesn't do what other people do, which is make use of arts council, lottery, etc. And it was pointed out that Theatre Royal, I think, £175,000 a year of grant funding coming in to help run it, which greatly reduces the cost to the taxpayer of giving grants to that particular theatre, and that we're missing a trick effectively. So the argument was that we should invest in getting somebody in who has got a good reputation in the sector, who has a good track record of leveraging in external funds, to hugely add to the value for money that our taxpayers can get out of that. And Personnel Committee thought that was sensible advice. Just in terms of some other stuff, you're probably aware that Mary Argent is retiring from her main role, although she's not leaving us. She promptly became, she's already signed a contract to be a casual duty manager the moment she steps down from her current role. But we're going to recruit an additional administrator, so we're doing that now, and that's to pick up the admin tasks that are features of both Nick's and Mary's role. And that will allow us to consolidate things a bit more, get things written down, allow the council to actually set charging policies, etc. So the question people ask is, how much does it cost to hire the Leiston Centre? And it's, you need to ask Nick, you need to ask Mary. Well, actually, there should be a charging rate on the website that the council has approved. That's how it happened at other councils I work for. And it makes sense, it's clear then to everybody. So I think we'll be able to do that sort of thing. In terms of events, so this is about the Arts Centre management really, but in terms of events, the model really is to, rather than have one person do absolutely everything, is to have horses for courses, so that there are some events we do which are organised brilliantly by committees and they need administrative support to actually go away and do the things the committee decides. But there are some things, such as a Halloween trail, etc., where you need an artistic input. And there are others which are quite big things, kind of project management, so the big day out. Obviously you've got the Haverhill show, which is put on by Councillor Mason and a whole group of people working or something like that. But having the big day out, us having a project officer, it means we can have somebody who's busy organising that, which isn't taking away from organising the next event. Whereas we know that when we have one person doing everything, that, the focus is on the current event and not necessarily the next event. So that will give greater flexibility, and also I think capacity for the councillors to say what they want to have put on, and we can get somebody in to put that on as well. So a chance to also review the current repertoire of different activities that have been going on, so that if councillors want us to try something different, then we can do that. So that's the update. There'll be more work done in the new year. We'd hope to get to the point probably late January where we can start advertising. So there's still time for the person spending job description. It has to be signed off first. Chair, I can see Councillor Burns.
Okay, Councillor Burns.
So, thank you. Thanks, Colin. I thought the report was very comprehensive of what you do. I understand what you're saying on the fourth paragraph down about a new arts centre manager, or whatever we decide to call it. He's obviously, we may end up paying a lot of money for this person, but they've obviously equally in the job description and the contract has to have targets. There's no point recruiting someone in a lot of money who find we can't get those grants. The Theatre Royal, as an example, gets about £68,000 a year from West Suffolk Council as part of that £100 and something thousand a year. It's a completely different entity, the Theatre Royal, of course, in terms of what it puts on, the historical thing of it as well. So it'd be interesting to see if we can get that. But anyway, that's that. I think that paragraph you mentioned about the grants is something I've been going on for ages about the fact we don't look at outside entities for money, and I think this is a very good starting point. Talking about the charges for the Leiston, as an example, I asked today, the police want to know how much it was costing that, and because we don't have, although I was told a couple of rates, but then equally it was caveated by, oh, they may get discounts. Well, I want to know what the rate is, not, and I think that's where we've been asking for this for about 5 or 6 years, the rates to be published. So, and the other thing I would like to see, which is more of a finance thing perhaps, which I did ask for in, I think, November 2015, was, and I know Saffron Walden do this, is a profit and loss estimation for each large-scale event. It doesn't matter that we make a loss necessarily, but it'd be nice to know what the scale of that loss potentially could be, and if that's the right word to use, a loss, that's maybe not the right terminology. And I think the last one, I think the Remembrance works, and Armed Forces Day works really well, as Colin says, as a working party group, with Brian and Charmaine Thompson, as we were talking about earlier on. And I think I'm very keen to look at what we put on and decide, and again that might be the leisure committee, is do we carry on with certain events, or do we put something else on, or do we replace it? How much does it cost? What's the benefit? Be a bit more commercial. West Suffolk keep talking about being more commercial, and I think that's what we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah. Thanks for the report, Colin. That's really good. Some good stuff in there. The charges for the hire of the halls. I'm glad that's going to sort of come on a more of a formal basis, but a little bit concerned around some groups. We get a lot of community value from. They're not have got much money, so I'd like to see some sort of factor, something factored in to account for that, if possible.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith.
Chair, can I just respond to that?
Sorry.
So, normally, what should happen is that if people need financial help in hiring this hall, and they can demonstrate community benefit from doing so, they should apply to us for a grant to pay us for hiring. That way it's all really transparent. The difficulty of just making up rates is that you don't know, the council doesn't know who's getting what rates. The public can't see who's getting subsidies and who's not. And of course, pretty well the only people who hire our rooms are charities and community organisations who, on the face of it, would all qualify for nice, cuddly, let's not charge them anything. And we would never get any money in at all. So the grant system enables people to demonstrate, first and foremost, whether they actually need financial assistance, because they have to disclose their bank balances to us. And we've known in the past that quite often the Leisure and Community Committee have challenged grant applicants to explain why they need public support when they appear on the face of their accounts have sufficient funds anyway. So I think what you're asking for through the grant system will work very well.
Yeah, sounds sensible. Thanks. Yeah, cheers.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. You said here that the sort of working on a good programme for 2022 already, and that Sarah and Gary are sharing responsibility for overseeing. What happens if some of the people that are booked to perform decide they can't do it because of various reasons, COVID or whatever? How much leeway have Sarah and Gary got to put on replacement acts? I mean, in lieu of a new manager coming in?
The same leeway that Nick had before, so they've literally been given the same ability to change that. And currently the kind of contracts that people are signing now are kind of COVID type, I'm not necessarily describing particularly as contracts, but in terms of the agreements at least are based on COVID, because people need to be flexible in that respect. So yeah, if they need to backfill something, then that'll be down to Sarah and Gary. I think the only thing that we need to be a little bit careful of, and we may touch on that a little bit in the closed session, is whether, you know, in terms of value for money for the taxpayer of putting on events, so that we don't just put something back in that actually isn't going to be very popular, but is just kind of like grabbing something, shoving it in, so at least the programme hasn't got a hole in it. There may be occasions when we're better off with a programme that has less in it, but what's in it, it has more value for the taxpayer in terms of people who want to come along and see it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you for that. So we go now on to item 11, financial matters. So to authorise the following payment list, total of £91,547.19. Councillor Burns, you oppose? Yeah. Any seconder? Councillor Fox? And all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. So 11B, £775 worth of Panto tickets set aside for Reach, to consider donating the remaining equivalent value to Reach.
So this is just a reminder that this was a suggestion at the last meeting by Councillor Brown. We don't give £775 worth of Panto tickets to Reach. We give them the facility to book tickets up to that value. And the suggestion was that if they don't book that much, and obviously I don't know that yet because we won't know the answer until after the Panto is over, then any remainder value would be donated to Reach. So this is basically the kind of enabling vote if you want that to still happen.
Okay, Councillor Burns and then Councillor Brown.
Well, this afternoon, the second show today, I believe some of the people who have been nominated by Reach were at the Panto, I believe. So I don't know how many numbers there are. I'm wondering whether it'd be better, rather than doing that, we have another Panto come up in Easter, Goldilocks. 5-6 days of Panto. Whether it'd be worthwhile saying let's find some other people for Reach can find at that point in April, May, whenever Easter is. It's April, I guess. Rather than having to give the money to Reach, I'm a little bit worried because it's effectively a grant to Reach without them applying for a grant. If you know what I mean.
Okay. Councillor Brown next, and then Councillor Mason.
Yeah. Really, the suggestion was because of COVID and people having that reluctance to come along to the meeting, to the pantomime, sorry. But to make sure that sort of that benefit is distributed somehow to the others over Christmas. But to be fair, John's suggestion around sort of firing it over to Easter works for me personally just as well. I mean, it's just to get to get some youngsters in there, to have a good time really. So whether it's at Christmas or Easter, it's still a good thing. So
Okay.
yeah.
So Councillor Mason, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to put forward an idea, and I don't know if it would have council support, that we should consider other events throughout the year. Many of the families who are struggling financially just don't get an opportunity to enjoy many of the things that the Arts Centre put on, and whether a certain amount can be made available, tickets can be made available for Reach to be able to distribute, not just for the pantomimes, but for other events, to try and give these families a lift. But that's just an idea.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith, you want to say something?
Yeah, just
Clarification really. When we give grant money to REACH, it is for a particular project, isn't it? We're not giving it to a charity as such. So could we justify giving it sort of to the charity as a whole, or does it have to be for a specific purpose?
It depends. That didn't work. Your theory blown there. So, yeah, we do give 5,000 to REACH for core activity. We have given them funds for some projects as well. Voluntary organisations can apply to us for either. That's up to them. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whether you call it, this is being considered much the same as a grant application would be considered. So even if a grant application hasn't actually been completed, at the end of the day, this is still as robust as any discussion over a grant if they filled in the form, and we already know all the details. So I don't think that the fact they haven't applied for a grant on this particular occasion would undermine any decision made by the council.
Councillor Marks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with John's suggestion, and my concern to that is that this is about not some money. I mean, I was there the other day and they ran out of a particular type of food, and some money that was in the pot was used to buy that food, and I wouldn't really want to see that happen. This is about giving something to the children of the REACH families. And so I think John's idea is excellent, really, that this is a sum of money set aside for tickets for children to enjoy, and I don't really want to see that money slid into the underpinning service that they have. I think this should be maintained as a pot for funding for supporting children.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like you want a different proposal, which Councillor Burns has put forward, which is we via the amount over to the next Panto or other events. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'm happy to second John's
Okay, so
proposal.
that will be seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay then, so we go on to item 12, actions taken under delegated powers. Used to be none, or?
No.
And item 13, to receive urgent correspondence.
None.
None. Okay then. So item 14 is date of the next meeting, dates of the next meeting. To approve dates of meetings for 2022.
They were circulated as well
Were they?
some time ago,
Oh, okay.
but we didn't actually approve them.
Okay. So, have you got those in front of you?
Councillors may well remember seeing that get distributed. But
No,
No.
did you not?
not with the colours like that, no.
They may not be in colour. But yeah,
Call it.
Can that be sent out?
I can send it out.
Okay,
yeah.
so we'll send that out again. And feedback to Colin, yeah. And to note, the next meeting will be held Tuesday, the 25th of January.
So it probably won't be here, in actual fact. It probably will be at the Arts Centre.
Can I think it might work quite well here. I don't know, from an audio point of view anyway, certainly.
It might do, but I think the line dancing will interrupt quite a lot of proceedings.
The what will?
The line dancing,
That's
which is
right.
already booked in.
Oh, I know, they do, I know.
Do I have to declare an interest here? Not that I do any line dancing.
Oh, I thought that's what you had declared an interest for, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay then, so item 15, to exclude the press and public, to resolve that under the Public Bodies and Meetings Act 1960, the public and representatives of the press and broadcast media be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of following items of business, as publicity will be prejudicial to the public interest, as it would undermine the Council's ability to have unfettered debate and result in less robust, well-considered or effective policies. Can I have a post for that? Councillor Marks, seconder. Councillor McManus, and then all those in favour? Favour? Thank you.
Just,
Unanimous.
just wait a second.
So,
Wait a second.